So I think Kenmare is a really interesting company. We operate the Moma Titanium Minerals Mine in Mozambique in East Africa. We've been in East Africa for nearly 40 years. We've been producing for nearly 20.
And I know that you mentioned some of the everyday stuff being ubiquitous, but how important is ilmenite?
Ilmenite is everywhere. It's in your paints, it's in what you eat, it's in your milk, it's in your clothes, it's in anything which requires color, depth of color, or opacity. Anything like paints, pigments, any sort of dye. It's also the principal ingredient or the principal contributor to titanium metal, which is obviously a critically important commodity for many industries, including aerospace.
Good day. Welcome back. We have with us a guest, Tom Hickey. He is the managing director at Kenmare Resources. Ken, or Mare, sorry, let me start over. 3, 2, 1. Good. 3, 2, 1. Good day. We have Tom Hickey from Kenmare Resources. He's the managing director. Tom, it's great to have you here with us today.
Thanks very much, Steve. And thanks very much for giving us a chance to talk about Kenmare. So I think Kenmare is a really interesting company. We operate the Moma Titanium Minerals Mine in Mozambique in East Africa. We've been in East Africa for nearly 40 years. We've been producing for nearly 20. But what makes us really unique is we're going to be there for the next 100 years. We've got a really long mine life, top quality asset, and a really interesting next few years within the business.
Okay. If you can start, Tom, by telling us about, you've been there for 40 years, you've been producing 20, and you said for the next 100 years. If you can tell us a little bit more about what you have and how you can be so certain about your mine life.
Sure.
And first of all, actually, where are you? If you can tell us where you are and kind of your jurisdiction.
Yes, well, we operate the Moma mine in Mozambique in East Africa. And we've been there for producing for nearly 20 years. We produce titanium minerals, ilmenite, zircon, and rutile, which are heavy mineral sands. These are things that are used every day, all around you, in paints, in pigments, in titanium metal, in foods, in tiles. They're ubiquitous. You won't even notice them, but they're everywhere. They're non-recyclable, so we've got a constant market. And we've got a huge license area with mineral resources for the next 100 years or more.
Okay. And you are in Mozambique, and your flagship is the Moma mine, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And so I think I saw on your website you have the company's become the largest supplier of ilmenite in the world, having 6% of the global supply. If you can verify that and tell us what ilmenite is used for, and I know that you mentioned some of the everyday stuff being ubiquitous, but how important is ilmenite?
Ilmenite is everywhere. It's in your paints, it's in what you eat, it's in your milk, it's in your clothes, it's in anything which requires color, depth of color, or opacity. Anything like paints, pigments, any sort of dye. It's also the principal ingredient or the principal contributor to titanium metal, which is obviously a critically important commodity for many industries, including aerospace. Albeit the titanium metal is a comparatively small part of the titanium minerals market. And we've got about 6%. So we're about 6% of that market. That market's about 17 million tons a year. And Kenmare is the biggest independent producer. Lots of other big companies, Rio Tinto and lots of Chinese companies are in there, but Kenmare is the biggest independent producer.
Who else is in the area, and what's the plan for growth?
So we produce about 1 million tons a year. We're currently in the middle of a big capital program, which will enable us to increase our production to about 1.2 million tons a year by 2027, 28. And our plan effectively is just to keep doing that. We may look in time at new projects, but Moma is our only project at the moment, and our key focus is to complete that capital program, get that production increase, and continue to deliver returns to shareholders.
Can you talk about your capital structure? I noticed that you have a strong financial position, is what the website says. If you can break that down for us, as well as, how many shares fully diluted, options, warrants, and then if you can top that off with insiders and institutions, what percentage are we talking about?
Sure. Look, Kenmare is a pretty straightforward company. Our capital structure is very clear. We've got 89 million shares, about 2.5 million options, no warrants, no other dilutive instruments. We're a very closely held company with key institutions and long-term shareholders, the top 10 shareholders indeed representing nearly 70% of the register, and insiders within the company, less than 5%. The company's been around for a long time, and executives have been diluted over the years. Our cash structure, our financial structure, we were up until the end of 2023, we were net cash and significantly net cash, and we're currently net debt. At the half year, we were about $85 million of net debt, and that net debt position will increase over the next 6-9 months, and then as we complete our capital program, it will remedy itself, and we'll hopefully move back into net cash over the coming years. So we're a comparatively low risk capital structure. We pay dividends. We've returned over $300 million to shareholders between dividends and buybacks in the last 6 years, and we aim to continue to pay dividends to shareholders through our capital program.
So if you can tell us a little bit about I noticed that you have a robust team, an experienced team. If you can tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into Kenmare, and just kind of the team around you, and why investors
Sure.
can feel confident they got a good group.
Sure. Well, we've got a team of people who've been involved in natural resources and indeed in mineral sands for many of them for 25 years or more. I myself am comparatively recent arrival. I spent 25 plus years in oil and gas exploration around Africa with a variety of different companies, including Tullow Oil, who at the time I was there was a FTSE 100 company. I was CFO there. I joined Kenmare 3 years ago as CFO, and I became managing director last year. Our COO, Chief Operating Officer Ben Baxter, has been in titanium minerals for 25 years, worked at Rio Tinto for 15 of those years, and has worked in Kenmare for the last 10 years. He is an expert in all technical and operational aspects of our business. And finally, when I moved from CFO to managing director just over a year ago, we appointed a guy called James McCulloch as our CFO. He came from Rio Tinto, where he'd been for 15 years, including 5 years working in their mineral sands division. He's also a former analyst in investment banking, and while he was an analyst, he covered Kenmare. So he's known the company for nearly 20 years as well. So you've got a mix of people who've had experience inside and outside Kenmare, who've got lots of experience in natural resources, lots of experience in Africa.
What's the jurisdiction like? You're in Mozambique. Is it friendly there? Do you run into obstacles there? I know that you're also involved in the community. If you can talk about kind of how you give back.
Sure. Look, we've been there for 40 years, producing for 20. We expect to be there a long time. You don't operate effectively in an emerging market like Mozambique unless you respect your neighbors. You invest in capability. We invest in healthcare, sanitation, infrastructure, and effectively ensuring that as much of the revenue and as much as the value we produce is seen by the community. And that stood us in really good stead. Mozambique has been a very good place for Kenmare to operate. The country itself has been independent for about 50 years and has had stable leadership during that time. And indeed, we've had next to no real incidents during our time there, apart from a small amount of civil disorder at the back end of last year. But, it's perfectly safe to walk around. Our team would go for walks and runs and cycles and fishing and all sorts of things when we're operating at Moma. It's a remote area. Before Kenmare came along, it was pretty much subsistence farming and fishing. So Kenmare is the biggest industry in the province in which we operate, and we employ over 1,700 people. 97% of those are Mozambican. So we really work hard to make sure the value stays in the country. Even our general manager, the guy who leads the operation day to day in Mozambique, is Mozambican as well, which gives us a strong identity with the community and a strong identity with the culture.
Just for our listeners, I want to provide a disclaimer at this point that Kenmare Resources has not paid for this interview, and I myself am not an investor, although that may change. So, Tom, I guess the question for me and other investors that want to know is, where is the value? Where's the deep value? If you can, you talked about being a producing mine, and you talked a little bit about your plan, but if you can tell us about kind of, uh, you know, people want to invest in the early parts of the Lassonde curve, or just parts where they have upside, or where there's value. Maybe you're underpriced. If you can tell us about kind of where the deep value is for your group.
Sure. So look, I think what's interesting about Kenmare is, our market cap at the moment is approximately $300 million, maybe a shade more depending on the time of day. And yet we've invested nearly $1.5 billion in our project over the last 20 years. So you get a really well invested asset, a really long mine life, good margins. I mean, we've had up to 60% cash margins over the last couple of years. It's a little less now, but it's still, typically 30 to 40% EBITDA margins, and a dividend. All of these things at a low point in the price cycle for our commodities. We hear a lot about gold or nickel or silver, which are, and copper at all-time highs. Ilmenite, Zircon, and Rutile, which is what we produce, are actually currently slightly oversupplied. Now, we expect that to change. Nobody's investing in new mines at the moment. Kenmare is one of the few mines with a long life ahead of it that is positioned to benefit from any uptick in pricing over the next number of years. And we're very confident that we'll see that emerge. So I think it's a good time to look at Kenmare. We've got a big capital investment project just about finished. Back end of this year, 80% of the cash will be spent. We'll be emerging from that. We'll be increasing our production, and we'll be well positioned to benefit from any price improvements.
Awesome. Tom, if you have any news you'd like to share, or if you can tell us about your ticker, your website, how people can find you, how
Sure.
follow your story.
Come see us at kenmareresources.com. Our ticker is KMRLN. We're listed in London and in Euronext. If you want to get in touch with us directly, IR@kenmareresources.com will get you a response from our investor relations department. And our website has all our recent presentations, including our most recent trip to the Mining Forum Americas in Denver last month. So we have about 10% of our register and our shareholders in the US, and we come over regularly. So, anybody who has an interest will certainly be able to get to meet us, and we're always happy to jump on a Zoom or a Teams with anybody who'd like to speak about the company.
Awesome. Well, Tom, great to have you. Looking forward to following your story and learning more about ilmenite, and thanks for sharing about how that's useful and where you guys fit in the story.
Thank you very much, Steve. Really appreciate it. And thanks to your listeners for taking the time to listen to us.